Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week we're hearing that snapper bluefish are moving in throughout most of southern New England. We're hearing that yellowfin tuna and mahi are really lighting up in the shipping lanes south of Rhode Island, south of Massachusetts. And we're hearing that the Canal has been red hot Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and possibly beyond. And finally, we're hearing about an increase of bonito catches, mostly in Massachusetts, but there's been a few caught in Rhode Island as well. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's Web Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So let's start things off with that offshore bite. As we've been doing for the last couple months now, there's still a lot of excitement surrounded by the whole bluefin thing, but it definitely seems to be breaking up. There's no, X marks the spot anymore. There's no, going to the gully or the tuna ridge or any of that stuff to guarantee yourself getting in on these fish. The footballs are up closer to the island now, but the guys that are finding them are looking around. They're running around looking for them. Again, there's no specific spot, but the offshore fishing has, the way offshore, canyons, shipping lanes, has really started to pick up over the last few weeks now. We're seeing a lot of yellowfin tuna coming in from the shipping lanes and some of the canyons and the Ranger wreck. We're seeing a lot, big increase in mahi being caught from the high flyers and other, floating debris out there. The thing that's really exciting to me right now is that some of this yellowfin action has been topwater action. Christian my buddy there from Offshore Charters, he was out there this week with a couple friends, and he said it was mayhem. Throwing poppers to, charged up yellowfin and just having an absolute blast out there. They got some nice mahi as well. So that's been drawing a lot of interest from these guys that were just totally fixated on this bluefin bite in closer to the island. Now they're heading out to the canyons and the shipping lanes, and they're cashing in there. There's still a really good giant bite east of Chatham, out at the Regal Sword area, up on Stellwagen, some other places as well. They're starting to spread out a little bit more. I've seen some really big ones, fish over 500 pounds taken on live mackerel. And, it's that late summer thing, there's just a lot of interest in offshore fishing right now. And there's a lot of options. The sharking has also been really good if you're into that. So there's a lot of options for the offshore guy right now, and things are looking really good. The other thing that I'm going to cover is just some inshore exotic species, which we're seeing more and more every week now. This is, we're in August now. This is when the water's the warmest, and this is when we start seeing more of those southern visitors. You may have read in the surf report this week that Toby Lipinski netted a spot in Rhode Island. Typically thought of as a southern bait fish, but their range goes all the way up into New England, but they're very rare up here. We heard about Spanish mackerel last week in Long Island Sound. I haven't heard of any this week, but I've seen some pictures on social media, so I have to think that they're still around. Chub mackerel are everywhere at this point. They seem to thinned out a little bit in Rhode Island, but they're finding them in Massachusetts. They're finding them in Long Island Sound. They're finding them out at Block Island. We saw a lot of triggerfish show up this week. So that's another southern visitor that's coming in. And then, of course, the bonito bite has picked up. The main place where it's really been good is out by the Bonito Bar and the Hooter, out around Martha's Vineyard. But we have heard of some on the south side of Block Island and some around the Watch Hill Reefs as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of different tropical fish around right now. And now everyone's just kind of crossing fingers and toes for the albies to show up. I still think we got at least 3 weeks before we start seeing them in any numbers. But suffice it to say, the funny fish season has begun. And lastly, I'm just going to cover the porgy scup bite like I always do, and it's really unchanged. The fish are shallow. You can catch them in 5 feet of water all the way out to 30, 40 feet of water. The bite has been really good. Buzzards Bay, Nantucket. It's been really good throughout all of Rhode Island and all of Long Island Sound, out around Fishers as well. Just get yourself a bucket of, clams or squid or especially seaworms. And just set yourself up on some rocky terrain, and I mean, you're gonna catch. It's as good as it gets right now. And so that's the story on sort of these overarching fisheries that that everybody runs to, no matter where they are in New England. So let's move over to Massachusetts now. And if you're a mass bass fisherman, there's just a few places where you want to concentrate your efforts right now. Probably the top place for striper fishing in Massachusetts right now is the Canal. It's been good. It was pretty good at the end of last week, pretty good through the weekend. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it really started to get really good. Much better size, a lot of bait, and you know, a reliable dawn bite, which has not been a reliable thing throughout most of the summer. So guys are getting them on magic swimmers, you're getting them on pencil poppers, things like the Splash Walk from Shimano. And at night, it's been mostly dominated by jigging with big paddle-tail swim shads. But we're seeing fish anywhere from 10 pounds up into the mid 30-pound range. Probably a few bigger ones being taken in there as well. But that's been like the dominant striper thing in Massachusetts right now. But Billingsgate has been really good for the guys snapping wire. They're getting fish up to 40 inches. You're getting a lot of slot fish out there right now. There's still a pretty good bite off of the outer beaches. It's been more scattered this week. I'm hearing about fish at Wood End. I'm hearing about fish at Marconi. I'm hearing about fish at Nauset. And it's still been that classic thing where the boat fishermen are getting them during the day, jigging with ronsies and parachutes and things like that. Then these fish move inshore at night, and guys are getting them on, you know, the things that I've talked about the last few weeks, slender baits, but also now we're starting to see some more bunker on those beaches, so big metal lips are getting some fish, bigger shads are getting some fish, and we're also hearing about some bigger fish, some fish up into the 30-pound range from the beach, so it's getting more and more like a classic Cape Cod striper bite, which, you know, I really like seeing that, really like hearing that. I've also heard about some good fish at the vineyard. You may have seen in the report last week, there was a big one, you know, fish close to 50 pounds taken from one of the salt ponds out in the vineyard. And then I heard from another friend of mine that there have been some really nice fish taken on Topwater. So these are daytime fish. There were no details on exactly where, but some fish up into the 40-pound class were taken over the last week out of the vineyard. There's also a lot of slot fish out there, mostly on the North Shore, like I talk about every week. You know, fish and fish over slot too, like up to 25 pounds. Very rare, apparently, to get anything bigger than that, but they are there. And that's pretty much the striper story this week. Moving over into sea bass now. It's the same story over by, you know, east of Nomans has been very good. But another thing that's really been kind of cropping up is guys taking the run out to Coxes. They're getting some really big sea bass out there, like fish up pushing 5 pounds. And there's been a lot of market-sized cod in the mix as well. So you're getting a nice mixed bag out there, and the sea bass action has been red hot. So those are the two best spots in Massachusetts right now if you're looking for sea bass. Fluking, I'm not hearing anything. If you guys have got some news on fluke, you know, I'm listening. Send it my way, because I'm really not hearing a lot. However, bluefishing has really picked up. So one of the best spots right now has been Gloucester, and that's an area that doesn't always see good shots of bluefish, but right now they're seeing a lot of big bluefish from the surf and from the boat. Fish up into the mid-teens have been reported. Another place where there's been a lot of big bluefish is Nomans. Obviously, that's a boat fishery only. You're not allowed to go on Nomans, and you know, you shouldn't go on there because of the unexploded munitions that are out there. You got to be very careful. You got to obey the laws. But there's been some really big blues there, and then Waisqui and Chappie have had some, you know, more average-sized blues, and also the Canal has had some big blues up to about 11 pounds. So that's been most of the story as far as bluefish go in Massachusetts. And actually, that's the whole story in Massachusetts. So let's move over to Rhode Island now. And there's a few places that I'm hearing about the best bass fishing. The first one is going to surprise nobody. That is Southwest Ledge out of Block Island. They've been getting a lot of big ones this week, a lot of 40-pounders, but every week we're hearing about a couple 50s, maybe even 3, 4, 5 50-pound fish. The one thing that I have noted is that the bite has definitely transitioned to mostly eels at this point. It's not the soft plastic bite seems to be slowing down. Another place that's been really good for bass, it's been the Watch Hill Reefs. Not as many big ones there, but there are a lot of fish in that 30 to 40 inch range, with a few fish reported up to 45 pounds. So you do have a good shot at getting a big one there as well. Another place that's been really good for the surf guys has been pretty much like central Rhode Island. So anywhere you've got that, classic Rhode Island ledge, guys are getting into some nice fish on faster moving lures. So things like magic swimmers, bucktails, soft plastics on lead. I haven't heard over anything really of great size, but fish from 10 to 20 pounds have been pretty common, and fish up to 25 have been like the upper crust at this point. But the surf fishing during this whole new moon has been really good in Rhode Island. Fluke fishing, as you head out toward Block, it's been really good. There's been a lot of fluke out there, a lot of sizable fish, but there are still just acres of shorts out there. But the good news is that we've seen an increase in size. We're seeing a lot more of those 7 to 9 pound fish when you do find a keeper out there. You just got to endure that, that marathon of shorts. It's been pretty much the same story inshore, except the fish are a lot smaller. You're working a lot harder to get your keepers there, but snapper bluefish are starting to show, and so we've seen fish up to 24 inches taken out of the breachways from shore, and the boat guys, they can take advantage of this as well. They just need to pull in tighter to these estuaries, and one of the best ways to get them is to fish with a live snapper. Right now the snappers are still pretty small, but in the coming weeks as they get a little bit bigger, that's going to be one of your best ways to get a big fluke at Rhode Island. Sea bass, a lot of guys are running out to the windmills. A lot of guys are making that same run to Coxes, finding some really nice fish on those two spots. But another place that's been really good, we don't have to run so far, is the East Passage, and then kind of swinging out around Brenton Reef and over toward like Gooseberry Island area. That whole area has a lot of nice sea bass in it, and one of the secrets, like I talked about last week, of doing well at this time of the year is just to find those smaller, lesser known rock piles, and where all the keepers haven't already been caught, because a lot of times at this time of the year, a lot of boat traffic, a lot of fishing pressure, and these fish just get picked up out of those spots, and it takes a while for them to fill back in. And then blackfish, which opened up not even just over a week ago, has been really good. I've been hearing about a lot of nice fish taken from shallow water, fish up to 9 pounds. Newport and Middletown have been very good, and over in Narragansett and out toward the breachways as well. There's not a lot of guys doing it, but I think you're going to see a lot more guys starting up, because the bite has been, I would call it exceptional for August. And now we're going to throw it over to Mike from Watch Hill Outfitters, and he's going to fill us in on what's going on out their way. Take it away, Mike.
Hey guys, very exciting week. Got a lot of stuff going on. Definitely a big change in the bait. We currently have peanut bunker, real small little guys running around. Real exciting. You definitely need to use some smaller teaser rigs, or the fly rod guys are killing it. The other thing that we had this week was Ness had a huge tournament. They call it Porgyzilla. It was very exciting. Really enjoyed going there and seeing everybody and all the kids' happy faces. Really fun trip. Loved it. Super great place. The other thing that we have is some really big fluke. A guy came in the other day with a huge fluke right outside off the beach. Very large. I think it was 11 pounds, 11 ounces. Monster slob. The guy's name's Dave. Super good guy. The other thing that we have is some chub mackerel that are mixed in. Pretty big bait. Some large fish underneath them. The other thing is that we actually have some bonita that'll get caught with them. This time of the year we typically get a nice shot of bonita. Get out there and catch them. Additionally, we have some large bass out there feeding on some bigger baits. Definitely get out there and look for that big fish. Pay attention to what's going on in the water. I'm actually going fishing tonight with a buddy, Tommy Tsunami. Wish me luck. and tight lines on the water.
The last thing that I did not cover before Mike took over there was bluefish. The only place I'm hearing about any consistent blue fishing right now is the Charlestown Breachway. I would be surprised if there weren't some to be caught out at the North Rip on diamond jigs and things like that, but the only place I'm hearing any stories about bluefish being caught are, like I said, Charlestown Breachway. If you have any news on that, shoot me an email. And that's the story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. And now moving over into Connecticut. The bass fishing in Connecticut has been best around Fisher's Island. This is the time of year when Fisher's is best, typically. So I'm hearing about a lot of small fish blitzing out behind the island on the south side. Guys are getting them any number of ways. There's been bigger fish in the race. Guys are getting them like 3-weighing bucktails, 3-weighing eels, diamond jigging. All those methods have been catching some nice fish in the race. I'm also hearing about some big fish up in tight to the island. First light, last light, throwing big topwater plugs like the dock or the splash walk. The other place that there's been some bigger fish is out by Milford. There was some big schools of bunker that showed up there this week, and those bass are following them around. There's also a lot of big blues there, and surprise, surprise, there's a lot of big blues in the race as well. So if you're diamond jigging, 3-weighing bucktails, or especially if you're 3-weighing with eels, you can expect to catch some big bluefish. There's been some nice ones, 10 to 15 pound fish in those areas. And at first light, you might get them on topwater too. If you're looking for sea bass, the best zone for sea bass right now has been between the Connecticut River and the Thames River. So you're basically kind of putting the crosshairs on Niantic. You're heading out from there. Places like the Bloody Grounds have been really good. What you really want to look for is 100 feet of water. And, the jig has just become so popular. I think guys, it's personal opinion, but I think guys are just learning how much more enjoyable it is to get them on the jig than it is to sit there dunking bait. But we've seen a lot of nice fish taken this week. Black Hawk has had a lot of nice ones. And we've seen a lot of pictures from readers with really nice fish taken in that area. The only other place that I'm hearing about any consistent black fishing is 6 Mile Southwest Reef in that area. Seems like the fish there overall are a little bit smaller, but the bite is still very good. If you're looking for fluke, you're going to want to fish Hatchets and Black Point. That's if you're going to stay in the Sound. Those are the two places that have had the most consistent action. It's mostly in 80 to 100 feet of water. And that's pretty much it. You're still going to get a lot of shorts, but there have been some bigger fish in there, 7-8 pound fish in there. If you're dead set on hunting down a big one, I would just bypass everything and head right to Montauk. That seems to be the most consistent place for finding keepers and with a legit shot at getting a doormat. And let's see, what else have I got in Connecticut? The only other thing that I'm hearing is that there have been a lot of sharks out around Fishers in the race and in the sluiceway. This has been kind of an annual thing. So there's been some threshers in that area. That's the only species I know that guys have absolutely seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few other species in there. I think last year there was a blue shark in there, and I think there was even a mako that came through there. So things are getting sharky out there. So just keep your eyes open if you're fishing that area. And, you might be surprised by what you find. And so to wrap this up, I'm going to throw it over to Max from Fisherman's World. He's going to let us know what's going on out in the Western Sound. Take it away, Max.
This week we've seen fluke to 8 pounds caught by Aki. This fish was taken out in some deep water. He was drifting whole squid, and there are some fish to be had. Guys are finding some fluke. You really got to work in the deep, like can 24, 26. Guys are getting them even at the OB buoy and 28C. The porgy bite is still really strong, so if you have kids or you're with the family, you have a good fish fry, I would take the whole family. Guys are catching them from the beaches and the boats. Still places like Sherwood, Westport beaches, and Norwalk Beach, and from the pier. On the boats, I would try some 28C, Cockini Shoals, and Green's Ledge. Remember, clam chump. The sea bass bite still remains in deep water. I talked to a couple of anglers this week, and they got their limits, but they're on some deeper water wrecks out to 60 to 100 feet. They'll take anything from spros, gulp, diamond jigs, butterfly jigs, and your classic high-low rig with clams. The bluefish are still keeping everybody entertained. Guys are catching them deep water diamond jigging still at 11B, the OBB, and 28C on the incoming. Guys chunking at night are still reporting some bass being caught, but mostly we're dominated by bluefish. This week we heard a lot of snappers around the islands and in our harbors. These fish are about this big right now, and they're only going to continue to get larger. Guys fishing early morning around the islands are reporting some good striped bass bites actually on the snappers. So throwing plugs like the dock or bigger SP minnows imitate snappers really well. Thank you and good luck to all the anglers.
And now we're just going to give you a little rundown of what's going on in the Coastal Kayak Clash. This week in the Coastal Kayak Clash, we saw a lot of entries and a big shakeup at the top of the leaderboard. You may remember that we have been locked in a three-way tie for a few weeks now. Well, that tie has been broken, sort of. Bob Stuber came out of left field to take over the first place spot by logging the top entries for sea robin and weakfish this week, giving him 6 points and locking him into a tie with Justin Oser for the lead, only hanging on to the top spot because his largest fish is larger than Oser's largest fish. In the process, Gary Innes' score was reduced to 4, knocking him out of contention for now. Bob Wagner's score was also reduced to 4, but he hangs on to third place by the inches afforded by his 36-inch bluefish. Albert Green has also entered the mix, logging a first-place blackfish and a third-place sea bass, giving him 4 points and putting him well within striking distance of the top spot. There's still a lot of time left in the tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a ball game. And finally, we'll give you a little rundown of what's going on in the Dreamboat competition.
The standings remain the same in the Dreamboat contest. The Dreamboat Fish of the Month winner for July was Rashawn Williams of Brooklyn with his 12.43-pound fluke. Rashawn wins an accurate reel and a fish mount from Global Fish Mounts. Congratulations, Rashawn. The August Fish of the Month species is mahi mahi and is currently held by Henry Piacentina with this 22-pounder. Will he hold the lead through August? Let's see. There's lots of time for mahi mahi to be weighed in. Other notable entries was this fluke that was weighed in by Vito Acacabasio. This weighed in at 11.8 pounds and was weighed in at Great Kills Bait and Tackle. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is a Fisherman subscriber-only season-long multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a 25-foot Steigercraft center console powered by a 300-horsepower Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Subscribe now to the Fisherman magazine to be part of the action.
And that's what I have for you guys this week. I hope these reports were helpful. As I say every week, if you're not a subscriber, head over to the website and check us out. We've got a lot of stuff to offer. We cover a much larger region than any other regional magazine in the Northeast. We have top anglers covering every subject. We have reports that cover the entire area. You should really come check us out. If you're just going to stick with the videos, that's fine. Just give us a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that little bell thing down there so we can give you a notification when we post new videos or post new content all the time. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.